Again, to have the kind of success we're having, you can't have success in 2 of the 4 or 3 of the 4. You got to have it in all 4 of the 4. And we had record-breaking revenue in all 4 categories. In the personal income tax, which is our largest revenue source in our state, in the month of June alone, when you compare June 22 to June 21, our revenue for the month of June was 22.8% higher in June of 22 versus 21. So we closed the books there at the end of June, and we totaled up our fiscal year 22 revenue, and we set a record of almost, our total number was almost $2.5 billion, which was an increase above estimate of $461.5 million. And again, I love to put things in percentages because that's how you can compare where we were a year ago versus today. That means our personal income tax revenue compared to a year ago went up 16.6%, giving us a tremendous number, almost $2.5 billion in personal income tax, and that is, of course, an all-time record. Moving to our consumer sales tax, and of course, that's the tax that we all pay when we buy a product. The state of West Virginia sales tax is 6%, and then, of course, 1% in municipalities. In the month of June, the number was up 9.7%. So that would be this June versus June a year ago. That indicates that our West Virginians and people who are visiting us from out of state are buying more products. And that's obviously a very good sign. Fiscal year 22, we just keep hitting records, Governor. Our number was $181.7 million above estimate, which was a 7.7% increase from fiscal year 21. Another indicator that our economy in West Virginia is growing and doing very well. This, of course, was also a record total for a consumer sales tax in any fiscal year in the state's history. Our corporate net income tax, and I think this is a very important number, and maybe one that we don't always spend enough time thinking about. This indicates that our corporations that are paying the net income tax in West Virginia are doing well. And for the month of June, it was improved by 12.3% from a year ago. And for fiscal year 22, the number was $206 million above estimate. And look at that percentage. Everybody let that number sink in for a minute. 38.5% increase in 1 year in corporate net income tax, which means our companies, our employers are also doing very well. The last revenue category that's so important to our state's economy is our severance tax. And the severance tax number for June 22 versus June 21, the number, and this is not a typo, the number went up 115%. June 21 versus June 22. The total, we set a record by a very large margin. Our total was $400 for fiscal year 22, $438.9 million above estimate. And look at that percentage. Again, that's not a typo. Our severance tax revenue for the entire fiscal year went up by 180%. We did a look back because we like to do that in the Department of Revenue, and we looked all the way back to 2004, and this year the severance tax revenue was 13.4% of our total revenue. That is the highest number that we have ever had as a percentage of state revenue, which indicates that our severance tax is growing while at the same time our other revenue sources are growing as well. And to break that down, and this is a further indication that our economy in the energy sector is diversifying, 35% of our severance revenue was from coal, 48% was from natural gas, and 17% was from other sources such as oils. So the number is way up, and the diversity of the number is also improved dramatically, and I think that bodes well for the future of our severance tax revenue. When you add all this up, as you said, Governor, there a minute ago, we had a record-breaking $1.3+ billion surplus, but here's the number that really surprised me and jumped off the page. In this year alone, our revenue grew by $1.1 billion. That's last year versus this year. So that's a 23% growth in our revenue in 1 year. And I tried to think of a way, these numbers are so big and so good, I tried to think of a way to put that number in perspective. So here's what we did. We went back and we looked at how much did our state revenue grow from 2009 to 2018 over a 10-year period. In 10 years, our net revenue growth was $317 million in 10 years. This year alone, we grew by $1.1 billion, which means in 1 year, we grew 3.5 times the revenue that it took 10 years to gain between 2009 and 2018. So I could talk a lot longer, but I won't. But Governor, I'm pleased to turn it back over to you, and that is the fiscal report to the people of West Virginia for fiscal year 22.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you. And let me just say this, I always take notes, when other people are speaking, especially all of our experts. But one thing that I remember, and I remember like it was yesterday, when I ran for office in my first term, I had signs that were big billboard signs not billboard, but 4x8 signs that we had, and we had on those signs, "Don't give up on coal." Well, really and truly, I always believed that there'd be a point in time when the cycle would really change. I always really believed, and I told our people over and over and over, I really believed that when prices were low that we should have tiered the severance tax on coal and oil and gas. It's probably the biggest miss that we'll regret in this state forevermore. And we don't want to continue to make misses and everything. But with all that being said, I didn't really give up. And I truly believe that our coal operators, our coal miners, are our treasure in every way, as well as our gas and oil producers. This business of thinking that we can do without fossil fuels in this world, especially today, is frivolous. And we know that. The Biden administration has crippled this country in so many ways. Prices have exploded, have they not? Inflation is out of control. Energy prices are off the chart. Gasoline is $5 a gallon. It makes it tough. It makes it tough on a lot of our people. Now, I said it a few minutes ago, and I want everyone to get this and get this loud and clear. This is not about Jim Justice. This is not about these people that are going to speak to you today. This is about what you've done. I mean, you've had to get up every day. Many of you have had to grab your dinner bucket and out the door you go. We've had to diversify and do a lot of great stuff, and surely all that's working and everything. But at the end of the day, you have made it happen. And I owe everything to you. And it has been an honor beyond belief, as my dad would say, and a lot of folks in the Air Force would say, it's been an honor flying with you, and I mean that very sincerely. But with all of that, we have got to find a way. We've got to find a methodology and a way to really put some money, especially in these times, back in Toby and Edith's pocket. And that's why I always refer to all the folks that are out there, the great West Virginians that are getting after it every single day. The Tobys, the Ediths, all the great people of this great state that get after it every day and are absolutely going to the pumps and they're paying $5 a gallon and inflation is out of control and food prices are really high and we got to do something, don't we? So I'm going to read this to you. And we've done a lot of work, a lot of work about this. I have been a believer forever and a day. The thing that absolutely would drive population to our state is the reduction and the elimination of our personal income tax in West Virginia. Absolutely, that is the key. Now, you can listen to me or not, but that is the key to Emerald City. It is happening in Texas, Florida, and Tennessee like crazy right in front of our eyes. And people are migrating to those states like crazy. So today, and I want to read this to you, as a result of our unbelievable economic growth, I am announcing that I will propose a 10% personal income tax cut as an aggregate. You will get the bill very, very soon. The legislature will get the bill very soon. And it will have different levels of tiering, and we'll try to make it as fair as we can possibly make it, remembering that absolutely we want real job creators to bring more and more opportunities to the folks of West Virginia. And to do that, we just can't ignore the people on the higher ends because we are trying to attract them to bring their businesses here. We're going to make it retroactive to January 1st, the past January 1st, 2022. This will be a permanent reduction in the state income tax, or the state personal income tax. We want to provide West Virginians with a permanent tax cut for permanent relief and not a temporary stimulus. I will call a special session this month to coincide with the July interims and ask the legislature to pass a bill that I propose will get all of this and achieve all this and get all this done. I'm very, very hopeful that we will absolutely lay aside our differences and pass a bill basically that will get $254 million back into the hands of the people of West Virginia. We have the money to do it. Why $254 million? And we have vetted this with BDO over and over. There are ARPA regulations and restrictions on the ARPA dollars. And because of our growth, and I'm going to let Secretary Hardy explain this better, but because of our growth, this is the very maximum that can be done. This is the absolute fastest way that we can get money and real relief all across the board to every single taxpayer in the state of West Virginia. This is the way to do it, and do it right now. We've got the money. We've vetted it through BDO. The restrictions are met. And now what we need to do is move. We need to lay aside our differences. What a great opportunity for all West Virginians, Democrats and Republicans and independents, to vote for a tax cut. This is only the beginning. This is only the very beginning. It puts us on a glide path to someday be a state as Florida, Tennessee, and Texas are today, and others, but Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. How does all the population have to travel to get to Florida, Tennessee, and Texas? They come through West Virginia. Now, wouldn't the population that's in New York or Philadelphia or wherever it may be, 2/3 of the population of this country is there. As they're traveling, would this not be the state that they would land and stay in? This is the way to drive population to us. I've said it many, many, many times. We missed on the tiering of the severance tax. We have semi-missed on absolutely trying to get rid of our personal income tax. This is the way to go. This is exactly the way we should go. We can do it right now.